1960s, he figured out that wine and beer could be kept from spoiling if they were heated to about 57 degrees Celsius for a few minutes. Eventually, people figured out that the same process could be applied to other foods and drinks, especially dairy, to make them safer to eat and drink. Well, if you want a healthy cow, milk will usually be safe to drink. But dairy farms at the start of the 20th century were often dirty, filled with sick cows and sick people. Bacteria often ended up in the milk, making dairy products unsafe to consume. Pasteurization made milk safer, and the United States Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, began to pass laws to require it.
What if you can create your own website by saying
every dairy product in Canada has to be pasteurized? There is some, you can get some raw milk in the United States. They have raw milk down there, and they have some unpasteurized product as well. And how can I put this without sounding? It's definitely safer to have pasteurized dairy products. 100% definitely safer to have pasteurized dairy products. But let's say in France, for instance, lots of unpasteurized, tons of unpasteurized milk, all kinds of unpasteurized cheeses, all kinds of unpasteurized butters, and as long as the process is clean and all of the steps have been followed, in a modern world there isn't a lot of issues with unpasteurized products. But in Canada, it has to be pasteurized.
varies from country to country?
Okay.
Varies from country to country.
Europe has lots of raw milk products. It's almost all the way all through Europe because it's all one big European country now. Yeah. I mean, it's individual countries, but the rules apply across the board for everybody. But in Canada, definitely everything has to be pasteurized. And I know, like friends who've come back from Europe and are bringing back unpasteurized butter. Especially butter, yeah, gets caught at the border. They take it from you, right? So, lots of debate around it. It's definitely a different flavor. Like, it's definitely a different flavor. The unpasteurized butter is a much fuller, richer flavor, and unpasteurized cheese too.
Is cultured butter? I know that's the thing. Is that
No. Cultured just it's got less cultures grow in it, but it's still pasteurized.
Oh, I see.
Right, it's still pasteurized. Right, and then this cheese. This again, not.
Before empires and royalty, before pottery and writing, before metal tools and weapons, there was cheese. As early as 8000 BCE, the earliest Neolithic farmers living in the Fertile Crescent began a legacy of cheese making, almost as old as civilization itself. The rise of agriculture led to domesticated sheep and goats, which ancient farmers harvested for milk. But when left in warm conditions for several hours, that fresh milk began to sour. Its lactic acids caused proteins to coagulate, binding into soft clumps. Upon discovering this strange transformation, the farmers drained the remaining liquid, later named whey, and found the yellowish globs could be eaten fresh as a soft, spreadable meal. These clumps, or curds, became the building blocks of cheese, which would eventually be aged, pressed, ripened, and whizzed into a diverse cornucopia of dairy delights. The discovery of cheese gave Neolithic people an enormous survival advantage. Milk was rich with essential proteins, fats, and minerals, but it also contained high quantities of lactose, a sugar which is difficult to process for many ancient and modern stomachs. Cheese, however, could provide all of milk's advantages with much less lactose, and since it could be preserved and stockpiled, these essential nutrients could be eaten throughout scarce famines and long winters. some 7th millennium BCE pottery fragments found in Turkey still contain telltale residues of the cheese and butter they held. By the end of the Bronze Age, cheese was a standard commodity in maritime trade throughout the eastern Mediterranean. In the densely populated city-states of Mesopotamia, cheese became a staple of culinary and religious life. Some of the earliest known writing includes administrative records of cheese quotas, listing a variety of cheeses for different rituals and populations across Mesopotamia. Records from nearby civilizations in Turkey also reference rennet. This animal byproduct, produced in the stomachs of certain mammals, can accelerate and control coagulation. Eventually, this sophisticated cheese-making tool spread around the globe, giving way to a wide variety of new, harder cheeses. And though some conservative food cultures rejected the dairy delicacy, many more embraced cheese and quickly added their own local flavors. Nomadic Mongolians used yak's milk to create hard, sun-dried wedges of buaspag. Egyptians enjoyed goat's milk cottage cheese, straining the whey with reed mats. In South Asia, milk was coagulated with a variety of food acids, such as lemon juice, vinegar, or yogurt, and then hung to dry into loaves of paneer. This soft, mild cheese could be added to curries and sauces, or simply fried as a quick vegetarian dish. The Greeks produced bricks of salty, brined feta cheese, alongside a harder variety similar to today's Pecorino Romano. This grating cheese was produced in Sicily and used in dishes all across the Mediterranean. Under Roman rule, dry cheese, or Caseus aridus, became an essential ration for the nearly 500,000 soldiers guarding the vast borders of the Roman Empire. And when the Western Roman Empire collapsed, cheesemaking continued to evolve in the manners that dotted the medieval European countryside. In the hundreds of Benedictine monasteries scattered across Europe, medieval monks experimented endlessly with different types of milk, cheesemaking practices, and aging processes that led to many of today's popular cheeses. Parmesan, Roquefort, Munster, and several Swiss types were all refined and perfected by these cheese-making clergymen. In the Alps, Swiss cheesemaking was particularly successful, producing a myriad of cow's milk cheeses. By the end of the 14th century, Alpine cheese from the Gruyere region of Switzerland had become so profitable that a neighboring state invaded the Gruyere highlands to take control of the growing cheese trade. Cheese remained popular through the Renaissance, and the Industrial Revolution took production out of the monastery and into machinery. Today, the world produces roughly 22 billion kilograms of cheese a year, shipped and consumed around the globe. But 10,000 years after its invention, local farms are still following in the footsteps of their Neolithic ancestors, handcrafting one of humanity's oldest and favorite foods. Find out how Swiss cheese gets its holds by watching this episode, or trace the fascinating and often cruel.
Okay, so back in block 1, we talked about how food is kind of interlinked with all of these things in history, right? And there we can see the cheese. Cheese is the same thing. 8,000 years ago, man, 8,000 years of cheese making. So, we're, 2025 after the death, right? And now we're talking about 5,000 years before the time of Christ. Right? 5,000 years before the time of Christ. So actually, we can actually say 6,000 years. 8,000 years, 8,000 years old, right? So a lot of these things have been going on forever, right? Forever. For as long as there's been cows and goats, we've been dealing with dairy, right? And how to manage dairy. For modern times, things like pasteurization and homogenization. So homogeneous,
taking an uneven, or not uneven, but a mixed liquid that's varied in their substance and then combining to make smooth in one unique.
so homogeneous, all one type.
Yeah, all one type.
All one type, right? So, 2 years ago, I grew up here. I grew up in Vancouver, right? So Vancouver looks like this. Vancouver's always looked like this, right? Wherever, when I was in elementary school, I look back at my elementary school pictures, there's Asian people, East Indian people, all kinds of different people in my classes, right? So I've grown up in this kind of society and this kind of culture. I went to Germany. And we were in a part of Germany that used to be Eastern Germany. I was shocked to be around all white people. 99% Anglo-Saxons. We met up with two Vietnamese people that owned a little cook shack. And we're doing those are the only two Asian people I saw in the week and a half I was in Germany. Everybody else is white. So, in Germany, homogeneous society. One race, one type of people, pretty much. Homogeneous milk is where if we don't homogenize the milk, the fat is going to separate from the cream. Cream rises to the top. They talk about that all the time. So homogenization is a process by which we make the fat all the same through the milk. So the first glass of milk has the same amount of fat as the last glass of milk in the jug, right? There's no separating out. Okay? So homogenization has nothing to do with pasteurization, but all milk is homogenized and pasteurized in Canada. It's all pasteurized, all homogenous. So it's not going to separate out. If anybody's had a chance to milk a cow, anybody milk a cow? Yeah, milking cow's not a thing anymore, but yeah. So when you milk a cow, my mother's family came from farms and they would milk cows, and everybody rushes to get the milk inside and make sure whatever you're going to do with it, you're making butter from it, churning butter. Oh my God, what a pain in the ass.
To work out?
Oh my God. Like I thought, when I was a kid, I thought, oh yeah, go teach your turn to churn the butter. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, hours standing over top of that thing, just, really have to keep on going, don't stop, whatever you do. Yeah. So, the miracle of dairy, right? The miracle of dairy for us is like the Romans back in the day, right? We talked about this in Block 1 as well. Romans had the ability to preserve food. Egyptians had the ability to preserve food. That was their strategic advantage when they were going around conquering everybody else, right? They had cheese, they had dry proteins, they were able to have all of these things going around. And in our world now, we have all of these different types of cheeses. They all start out the same way, right? And so I'm still waiting on the rennet. So once the rennet gets here, we're going to make some. We'll make some, probably just some mozzarella, some sauce, pretty simple, or ricotta. Make one of those, and everybody will get a little chance to make up little balls. So it all starts out. It all starts the same way, and then is aged through different aging processes and the introduction of cultures and bacteria. So like blue cheese, they inject a little bacteria into the cheese as it's growing, and that changes the flavor again. Around the turn of the century, so 2000, 2001, I started to see it. First time I saw it, I'd heard about it, and of course it's been going on for a long time, but that was the first time that I'd seen cave-aged cheeses. So the other thing that's sort of become really fashionable in the last 25 years is these cheeses aged in caves. So they'll get a different flavor because of all of the things, all the little spores and stuff that are floating around in the cave, right? So cave-aged Gruyere in France, they have a bunch of Gruyere that's aged in England. There's Wookey Hole cheddar cheese. So Wookey Hole's a place that there's caves down there, and so they've taken part of the caves and then just they age cheese in there. And they go through and they turn the cheese. It's all in cheesecloth. They put it in cheesecloth, and it gets a different flavor. It creates a different flavor, different. It'd be interesting to see the Wookey Hole stuff or the cave-aged Gruyere that I've used and be able to see some stuff that started out uncave-aged and what the difference is with the cave-aged. But I will say that I really like the flavor of any cave-aged cheese that I've had. Any cave-aged cheese has got a really nice earth. There's definitely an earthiness to the flavor, right? There's definitely something earthy to it. So cheese is going to take on what's around it. Right, it will start the characteristics of the cheese are going to start to change, and the longer we age things, the more intense the flavor becomes. You can air dry them and get them super hard, like Parmesan cheese and get that really, really hard kind of look to it. So it's an interesting process, and for us. Dairy is a big part of, for sure, breakfast, but a big part of our diets overall. All right? So we also, maybe from block 1, remember that dairy, as long as there's a dairy industry, there's going to be a veal industry. Okay? So that makes it somewhat controversial, right? Because veal is it's difficult to think about slaughtering an animal at 6 months old, right? You're killing something at 6 months because if you let it get any older, the meat's going to become less valuable, right? They're not like regular beef cows that if we let them grow to full maturity, the meat is going to be actually better. With dairy cows, we've got to kill them early. So the male dairy cows are the ones that become veal. We don't need any. We only need one male cow in a dairy farm. You don't need any more than that. Any more than that's going to cause problems. So you only want one, and as many females as you can get, right? But the male cows, they become veal. And so now the whole idea of how the veal is raised is another issue, because what chefs have traditionally valued in veal is a really pale light color and really tender. So to get that pale light color, what we have to do is, the first thing you have to do is take it away from its mother, right? So the cow is born, right? The cow is born. We don't want it to suckle on the mother because the mother's milk has got iron in it, and that's going to turn the flesh dark or red. So we don't want that, so we take it away, we feed a special formula. So immediately, as soon as the cow's born, take it away from its mother. Isolate it, because we don't want it to get bruised. And actually, they do put them up in slings and don't let them touch the ground, so that the veal gets nice and so the meat gets nice and tender. All of this is phenomenally controversial and has led to a lot of restaurants taking veal off the menu. Now, you don't see veal it's not as common as it was even 15 years ago. There isn't much in the way of veal. Some places still have veal. Like Italian restaurants still have veal. Italian restaurants still have veal because veal is a big part of the Italian culture. But if you go around to pretty much any other restaurant, any other kind of fine dining restaurant, very rarely do you see veal, not very often. Same with foie gras. Foie gras is another thing that's highly controversial.
Baby ducks, right?
Not baby ducks. Just ducks or geese, but force-fed.
Force-fed.
Force-fed. They stick a tube down their throat and just force feed the duck or goose so that their livers get big, and then like they get to the point where the duck or goose can't actually walk anymore because their liver is so big, right? And then slaughter them and take. I mean, foie gras is delicious, right? It's delicious, but you know, to get it, you've got to force feed the animal, right? Force feed stuff for him. So and it's force fed. It's like literally a tube down his throat, and they just keep on pushing food into it to get the liver to expand, right? Yeah. So not pretty. No. Not pretty. But my father would say it's just a duck. I know. My dad would say that. My dad would say those things. It's just a duck, right? Like when the dog dies, it's just a dog. We'll get another dog. No, Dad! No, Dad! It's just a dog, Keith. No, it was Ink Spot, Dad. It was Inky. Inky's gone. Yeah, we'll get another dog. Don't worry, Keith. And 6 months later, get another dog. And love him just the same. But, yeah. Get what you need. Yeah. Right? All right, so the main thing you got to worry about is for dairy pasteurization, homogenization, and the cheese making. We'll go through this idea of rennet, where we actually kind of control spoil the cheese, spoil it, and get those bits of whey out. And then we create by manipulation, hand manipulation, mechanical manipulation in bigger factories, create the cheese curds and get the cheese to come together as one. And we'll work on that. Hopefully, I don't know if we'll get it this week, but for sure, we're supposed to have it this week. Hopefully, we'll get the rennet this week, and then we can do the cheese next week. All right? Okay, so we don't have any, we're not doing anything today around sandwich production or egg production, but we've got to go down and get ourselves dialed in for tomorrow. Wednesday, Thursday, we're going to be doing seafood salad wrap, and the omelets, right? So omelet and still section oranges. All right. So ham, I think it's a ham and cheese omelet. I think it's ham and cheese. So we'll have to cut up some ham and cheese. We should prep that today. Prep the cheese. Grapes. We're going to keep that separate from the omelet station stuff. All right. So great ham and cut ham and cheese for the omelet stations for tomorrow. For the omelet work tomorrow, and we've got some salmon downstairs. I've got to get fish stock for the corp bouillon because we don't have to make corp bouillon. The corp bouillon is already supplied for you guys when you come to. And we'll go through that tomorrow when we meet up here as to how we go through this. And have a look at those recipes in your IPA, in the IPA folder on the noodle shelf. And
we have quiz to do this week.
all right, let's head downstairs.
No quiz?